Hi friends, I'm Rhonda and welcome to a new video. Today I am going to talk about all the books that I hope to read in the month of August. I am actually very thrilled to be back on track and talking about those reading plans. I've actually done these videos before and unfortunately I don't always follow them to a T. I usually plan an unrealistic TBR pile and I start off strong, but by the middle of the month I don't want to read those books anymore and just that mood reader inside me just takes over. But I do like to have a pile of books that I can try and focus on and that I can just pull from and to maybe kind of keep me on track for that given month. I usually read about 15 books or more in a given month, so I do read a lot. And back in June, I read 19 books, and then this month I've read over 20. So I'm going to be ambitious, but not too ambitious, and I'm going to pick 12 books for August. And then if I read 15 to 20-ish books in August, like I have been, I can just have some wiggle room to do some mood reading that I like to do. Again, that's just, I've been doing a lot of mood reading over these past few months. Okay, so of the 12 books that I pulled off my TBR cart, I have 2 thrillers, 4 fantasy romance books, and then 6 romances. So we are actually going to start with the thrillers. The first book is Daughter of Mine by Megan Miranda. This is actually fairly a new release, and I believe it came out in April. So it's been sitting on my shelf since then, and I want to read this because we are still in the middle of summer, and I really want to do some more seasonal reads and knock off some books on my TBR cart that are maybe set in the summertime or might be good summer reads. And of all of my thrillers on that little TBR card, this one seems to scream summer the most. I believe this one is set in the summertime. This is about a woman named Hazel who is returning to her hometown after being away from home for about a decade because she has just inherited her childhood home. So during this time when she's back home, there's this awful drought and it's causing the water in the nearby lake to drop, and it is uncovering some information about Hazel's missing mother. So this sounds very intriguing, and I think it's going to be a perfect summer mystery. And also look at this cover. I think it is stunning, and with the mysterious foggy lake and the car being revealed, I just think it's going to be the perfect summer thriller for me. And this book has gotten some decent reviews, and I have only read one other book by this author, and I did enjoy it. So I definitely want to give this a try, and I cannot wait. So next up is Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. Now, this is actually a brand new author to me. I have not read anything by him before, but this has a 4.21 rating on Goodreads with almost 39,000 people rating it. So I think that is incredible. And obviously, it was also my Book of the Month pick for July. So again, this is another new release for me. And with that great rating, I think this is going to be something I'm really going to enjoy. But this is apparently a Hitchcock-inspired psychological thriller. And I'm going to be a little bit honest, but I am a little bit confused about the plot. It sounds as if we are going to be following a couple of different storylines. In one, 2 women who do not know each other meet up, and after talking, they realize that they have a lot in common. And as things move along, they end up coming up with this little pact that they will kill for each other. So if you kill for me, I'll kill for you. So that's what they're going to do. We are also following another woman who was attacked by a man, and after the attack, he disappears. So of course she's dealing with just that aftermath of having to deal with being attacked, and also knowing that her attacker is still out there. So this book is set in New York City, and I absolutely love books set there. I have heard just that this is a quick and fast-paced and intense read, and I definitely love intense thrillers, so I think this is going to be right up my alley, and I can't wait to read this one too. Okay, so next up, let's talk about the fantasy or romantasy books that I want to read this month. The first one is Quicksilver by Callie Hart, and this book is the book of the moment right now. I actually don't have a physical copy of it just yet, but the good news is it is on Kindle Unlimited for free, so if you do have a membership for Kindle Unlimited, you can read it without having to pay extra. But everyone seems to be talking about how good this one is and just raving about it. It was released in June, and I don't know a whole lot about it, and I try not to read too much into fantasy and thrillers because I do like to be surprised. But what I do know is the main female character accidentally opens a portal or a gateway between these 2 realms, and she is transported into a fae realm. Apparently, she is the first of her kind to be in this area for over, I think 1,000 years or something like that. And along her journey, she accidentally binds herself to this handsome Fae warrior who has this murky past and just a bad attitude. So this sounds a little bit like it's going to be a Grumpy Sunshine, but it also sounds like a fun time, and I cannot wait to read what everyone is talking about at the moment. Next is A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden, and this is book 1 in the Sacred Stones trilogy. The second book is called A Promise of Peridot, and then book 3, A Reign of Rose, will be out in October, I believe. And I think this is just going to be a 3-book series, so I think this is a great time to start a new series and to get into the series I've heard a ton of good things about. In this one, the main character is kidnapped by the Onyx King, which I think is like a dark Fae king, and she is being forced to use her magical abilities to help heal the soldiers of the king. In order to escape, she will need to use her wits, as well as some dormant power that she will need to harness. This sounds intriguing, and I have seen this book everywhere for some time now, and I'm excited to see what the hype is. And like I said, this is going to be the perfect time to start the series because I can read this one here in August, and then I can read A Promise of Peridot next month, and then be ready for A Reign of Rose without having to reread the series. So I can't wait to get started on this one. Another book that has been wildly popular for over a year now is One Dark Window by Rachel Gilling. And this one is part of a duology, and the other book is out as well. So this is a complete series. I actually do prefer, like most people, to read complete series or an almost complete series, just in case I love them and I may want to binge read them. I have heard that this is a gothic romantasy, and like the other two plots, I'm a little bit confused about what this is about. From what I gather, there is a dangerous mist across the kingdom of Blunder, and there's also an illness. If you get this illness, I think you were either killed or sent into this mist, and in order to save her kingdom and to find a cure, the main character and the king's nephew are having to work together to gather these 12 cards called Providence cards. Also, there is a monster living in the mind of the main character that is trying to take over her mind and I guess control her. I don't know. So this sounds really creepy and probably a little atmospheric, and I was wanting to hold on to this one until spooky season, but I've just been seeing this everywhere, and I want to go ahead and get started on this now, and then maybe read the second book next month or in October. So I can't wait to get to this one. So the last fantasy book on my August TBR is The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee, and I was watching Rachel over at Raven Haired Reader, and she was raving about this book and influenced me to pick it up as well. So this is book 1 of, I think, another duology, and a second book called The Hunted Heir will be out in August, I think on August 20th. So I will probably try and read this one closer to the release date of the second book, just in case I like it too, and I can immediately start that second book. But this one is an enemies to lovers adult romantasy about a princess who runs away from her cruel father. She has been imprisoned, I think, because she does not have any special powers in this kingdom, and if you don't have powers, you are basically nothing. And then after she escapes, she ends up being captured by this rebellion group that absolutely despises her father and hates the monarchy. They do not know that she is actually the princess and her father is the king, so that makes it interesting. She keeps this little secret to herself and is basically told that she either needs to join this rebellion group or she's going to be killed. So of course she decides to join the rebellion, and after telling the group that she does not have any powers, they decide to train her as a warrior. I've heard that this is a dual POV, and the male main character, who is of course very handsome, does not like her at all. He's super suspicious of her, does not trust her, and they just don't get along, which brings in the enemies to lover trope. So as they are working together to overthrow this monarchy, they are having to fight their desire for each other, as well as fight together to just overtake this kingdom. This sounds amazing. I absolutely love the hate to love trope. It's one of my favorites, and this just sounds like it's going to be an overall fun read, and I cannot wait to read it. So moving on to my contemporary romances on my August TBR, and for these romances, I am still trying to, as I mentioned earlier, just read some books that are more seasonal that are on my TBR card. So these are going to definitely be more summery and beachy. First up is Happy Place by Emily Henry, and this is, I think there's a sticker here and it's very sticky. This is actually my last Emily Henry book that was on my TBR card that is on her backlist I haven't read yet. I have read other books by her and I have enjoyed them with the exception of Beach Read. And I've been putting this one off because I feel like this is going to have kind of beach read vibes, and that worries me. I think I gave Beach Read 2 stars. Don't come after me, please. It just did not hit me in the feels like I expected it to. But her other books, I love Book Lovers. I love People We Meet on Vacation. I love Funny Story. Those 3 books were great, and I think I gave them all 4 stars. But this one is about a group of friends who have been just friends since college. And every year for the past 10 years, this group has been going to a cottage in Maine for just a little week-long summer vacation. And among the group of friends is Harriet and Wynn, who have actually been in a relationship since college. However, they broke up 6 months prior to this friend trip. And because this is the last year at this cottage before it gets sold, they decide not to tell their friends. They don't want to ruin this trip for the group, so they don't tell anyone that they broke up, and they still act like they are still together. So obviously this is going to be a little bit of fake dating, a little bit of forced proximity, I'm guessing, and possibly a second chance at love trope. I have heard that a lot of people do love this one, not only for the story of Wynn and Harriet, but because of the friendship of this group and how the dynamics of friendships do change as we get older. I am very familiar with this, and I'm still very close to some of my friends in college. In fact, I do go on a yearly summer weekend trip with these ladies all these years later, and I've been out of college for over 20 years. So hopefully I can relate to this based on my own experiences, and I'm hoping I will love it too. And also, this cover is stunning. Next up is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is actually her debut novel, and it is well loved and was very popular, I believe, last summer or the summer before. I haven't read anything by this author before, and I thought this would be the best novel to start with. But this one is a contemporary romance, obviously, that is told over 6 years. So it's going to be one of those sweeping love stories that usually come out in the summertime. But this one is about Persephone and Sam. So Sam's mother has recently died. So Persephone returns to her hometown to attend her funeral. And so because of that, she's back in Sam's orbit. Apparently, Percy and Sam were these great friends. Percy worked in the family's restaurant, and they were just inseparable. Eventually, that friendship just developed into more, and they started falling in love before things fell apart. So over the course of these 6 years in the weekend, we are learning about the friendship, them falling in love, and what caused them to break up. So this one definitely sounds like a small town first love and possibly second chance love trope. I have actually already read a couple of these this summer that has a very similar plot, including Love in Other Words and Same Time Next Summer. So this is definitely a very familiar plot, and I'm curious as to how this one is going to be different than the others I have read. And I've heard great things, so I'm hoping I'm going to love it. The next romance I want to read is Savor It by Tara DeWitt. And I have had this one on my radar for a couple of months now, and I can't wait to read this because I've heard nothing but good things about it. This is about Sage, who recently got out of a 5-year relationship. Her ex is now newly engaged, and in order to keep people from pitying her, she wants to win this Festival of Spoons. In order to do that, she's going to need a partner. So enter Fisher. Fisher is actually new to town, and he was once a very popular chef in New York. And he is in town because he needs to consult with a restaurant that is going to be opened. And Fisher is actually dealing with some things. He's dealing with the grief of his sister. And I don't know if he got fired in New York or if just things aren't going his way, but he has lost his love of cooking. So he is in town to just kind of help this restaurant and just to rediscover himself and I guess his love of cooking. So unfortunately, the townspeople do not like him, and with the help of Sage, they agree on this little alliance to not only help his reputation with the townspeople, but to also help her win this festival. So this definitely sounds like it's going to be a fun small town fake dating romance, and again, I have heard that this is absolutely wonderful and I cannot wait to read it. The next one is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. I think this one is not really a romance but more of a women's fiction, and to be honest, I don't know that there's any romance in it. But I had read one other book by her and I absolutely loved it. I read Expiration Dates. It was definitely very emotional, and then I also have one of her other books on my TBR cart that I want to read. But what I do know is her books do tend to have some magical realism woven into the storyline, and I love that. I think it makes for a very unique and interesting story. This one seems to also have some magical realism. This is about Katie, whose mom has recently passed away right before they were supposed to take this big mother-daughter vacation to this Italian town that Katie's mom spent the summer at before she met Katie's father. Does that make sense? Okay. Katie ends up taking the trip alone, and while she's there, she soon learns that this town is a little bit magical because she runs into her mother. So it sounds like Katie went back in time. I imagine that this is going to be about the grieving process and the mother-daughter relationship. I can't wait to read this, but I'm also dreading it a little bit because I know it's probably going to make me cry, and probably make me cry hard because, for those of you who don't know, my mother died when I was 12 years old. So any books that feature a daughter who is grieving the death of her mother, or there's an emotional mother-daughter trope, it hits me especially hard. But I have heard that this is a wonderful emotional journey, and it's definitely one that I want to read this summer because it is set in an Italian summer town. Another book I want to read is something a little bit more lighthearted, and that is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. So I heard about this one first from Heather over at Bookables, and she featured it on her Summer Reads recommendation video. I have also heard other booktubers talk about this one, and I've heard them say it's just a fun romance. So I have read another book by this author. I read Fangirl Down this past spring, and while I did enjoy it, I think I gave it 3 stars, but it was just too spicy for me. And their dirty talk, oh my goodness, I did not know that she was the queen of dirty talk, but that dirty talk made me cringe and turn my stomach. It was so bad. Because of that, I am pretty nervous going into this one and any Tessa Bailey book, but apparently this one is about Piper, who is this just rich, spoiled woman whose dad is this famous movie producer, and Piper ends up getting into a little bit of trouble, and her stepdad, I think he cuts her off. And in order to prove to her stepdad that she can be responsible and prove to her dad that she is capable of just making it without her stepdad's financial help, she goes to the small fishing town where her biological father lived with her mother before he died. So apparently not only was her dad a fishing boat captain in this town, but he also owned a bar and left that bar to his daughters. So she basically needs to run this dive bar that has been left to her, and I think her sister's going to be there to help her. But while she's there, she of course meets this hot and grumpy fisherman named Brendan. He is the captain of this crabbing boat and is very different from Piper in every way possible. So this sounds like it's definitely going to be a grumpy sunshine romance. So I have heard that Piper can be compared to Alexis from Schitt's Creek. And this book in some ways can be compared to Deadliest Catch just because of the whole fishing vibes. But I personally really love Schitt's Creek, and Alexis was one of my favorite characters. And I also used to watch the heck out of Deadliest Catch. So I think if I can get past the super spicy scenes and the cringy dirty talk, I might be able to enjoy this, and I'm hoping it's going to be super cute for me. Okay, finally, the last book on my TBR for August is this one. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I think I am the only person on this planet who have not read any Colleen Hoover books. She has actually been on my radar for quite some time, and I do have another book on my TBR cart to read. I think that one's Verity. But I've actually been a little bit scared to read her books. One of my really good friends told me that her books can sometimes be a little dark and the relationships are toxic. So I think that is what has put me off some with her books. She was also super popular during a time when I just wasn't reading contemporary romances. Anyway, I actually just got this a couple of weeks ago because the movie adaptation is coming out this month, as some of you may already know, and it's starring Blake Lively, who I absolutely love. And I really want to see this movie, but I hate watching movies based on books without actually reading the books first. So here we are. So for those of you like me who have not read this one yet, it is about Lily, who has met and has this whirlwind romance with, I think he's a neurosurgeon, but his name is Ryle. And while they are falling in love, things just kind of begin to unravel in their relationship. And around the same time, her first love, Atlas, comes back into the picture and forces Lily to rethink her life and relationship with Ryle. I think that's what it's about. So I definitely want to prioritize this book because the movie comes out on August 9th. And I want to give myself plenty of time to get this read so that I can take myself to the movies. But apparently this book has sold over 4 million copies. So obviously this book is popular for a reason. And I think this is the book that got so many people to read. And I think it probably kind of helped start book talk. I'm definitely curious about it. And I think me reading this is long overdue. All right, my friends, these are the 12 hopefuls for August. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you can, please let me know if you've read any of these books and let me know what you thought about them. You can also drop me a line and let me know what books you plan to read this coming month. And also, while you're there, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and happy reading. Bye.